Jill Dando shot dead. Was it an underworld killing? Tributes from colleagues, friends and relatives tonight. Now Yugoslav Deputy PM threatens street demonstrations. Bradford and Bingley members vote to take the money.
From ITN, the ITV Nightly News with Dermot Monaghan.
Good evening. The TV personality Jill Dando, who as Crime Watch presenter helped to send dozens of criminals to jail, was murdered on her own doorstep today. She was killed by a single gunshot to her head. Tonight the mystery over her death deepened with speculation that the killing may have been revenge for her anti-crime work. She was attacked at her home in Fulham in West London. A man was seen hurrying away. Paul Davis reports.
In Fulham this evening, police erected a screen around the doorstep where Jill Dando was murdered. Forensic officers searching for any evidence that might lead them to the person who took her life with a single shot to the head. It's believed the murderer was waiting as the television presenter returned to the quiet street where she lived at around 11:30 this morning. Neighbours heard her screams but were unable to help her.
I did hear commotion, but at the particular time I didn't think that the commotion was...
What did you hear?
I heard the scream.
Neighbours have told the police they saw a tall white man running away from the scene of the attack.
At this early stage, is he your principal lead? He certainly is. I mean, he was a man who was very near to the crime scene and then ran away from the crime scene, so he is somebody we need to speak to urgently.
As presenter of BBC's Crime Watch, Jill Dando helped the police catch many dozens of criminals. The manner of her death has led to speculation that this was an underworld revenge killing. In the Commons, politicians paid tribute to her crime-busting record.
She had done a huge amount, personally, in the fight against crime by her role, not least in Crime Watch UK, and therefore this makes her death all the more poignant.
Jill Dando's face appears on the front of the current Radio Times. Friends and colleagues at the BBC expressed their shock.
Everybody knew Jill. Her public and her private personas were exactly the same. She really was a warm and lovable person. She had no side to her. She wasn't a prima donna.
BBC journalists found themselves reporting on the death of a friend.
It's rare that a reporter can say that a murder victim was the kind of woman who had no enemies. I can say that about Jill Dando.
Tonight in Fulham, the screens still cover the house where Jill Dando lived and died. While police are refusing to speculate on a motive for this killing, detectives confirm that Jill Dando in the past complained of being followed by a stalker. They also point out that anyone responsible for solving so many crimes may have created enemies in the process. Paul Davis, ITN, West London.
Jill Dando, who was 37, was going to marry a doctor later this year. He said tonight he was totally devastated. Colleagues are also mourning her, and the Queen was said to be shocked and saddened by the death of a very popular presenter. ITN's Katie Derham reports.
Arriving at the National Television Awards just a few months ago, Jill Dando demonstrated why she was so popular.
No, I'm not actually. I've been in a very warm car for the last 20 minutes.
Approachable, friendly, the BBC's very own girl next door, and voted their personality of the year in 1997. Her versatility as a presenter was held in high regard, as she worked successfully in very different genres.
Yes, I definitely recognise this place, but was it the suntan, the chocolate, or the rum commercial they made here?
Since 1992, she travelled the world presenting the holiday programme, becoming a household name in the process. She had recently announced, though, that 7 years was enough and that she wanted to spend more time at home.
There were several...
And then there was Crime Watch.
Some have actually helped to relive the events in our reconstruction. The location...
It was a programme she was always very proud to work on. Many have commented today that it is bitterly ironic that she should now be the victim of crime herself. Her colleagues on the programme still can't quite take it in.
When people die, so often we hear people saying the obituary thing, saying just pleasantries about them, even though there was something which is, we're just not talking about, which was the other side of them. There wasn't another side to Jill. She was, as I say, if anything, better, nicer, more modest, more dignified, cleverer, than anybody saw and took for obvious.
First and foremost a journalist, she started on her local paper 20 years ago and then moved into local television news.
Good evening. Urgent talks have been taking place at an Exeter bank this afternoon over the future of the Brixham and Torbay Fish Cooperative.
But it wasn't long before national television beckoned. In 1988, she was snapped up by BBC News to quickly become a regular newsreader.
There's just one story this morning, the dramatic end of the Gorbachev era in the Soviet Union.
One of her fellow newsreaders paid tribute on an ITV special programme earlier this evening.
Well, we felt in many ways, Trev, that there was an empty chair beside us. Because Jill had shared so many bulletins with me and my colleagues on the programme. And there was, in a sense, an air of unreality about it all.
Jill was loved, I think, by the viewers more than almost anybody I know. She got an extraordinary response wherever she went. She was a star, but without being a star, if you know what I mean. She was a very natural person. And I think this news will shock the nation. I think it really will.
She was a very beautiful, elegant woman, and very responsible, and mature, and a real lady. There aren't many ladies left, are there? She was one.
Jill Dando had at last found happiness in her personal life. After a number of well-documented broken romances, she announced her engagement in February. Her fiancé, Dr. Alan Farthing, this evening said he was unable to comprehend what had happened. The police had called him out of his clinic this afternoon to identify her body. Jill Dando's natural vitality in front of the camera, her popularity and her professional stature was such that she'd been chosen to present the BBC's worldwide Millennium coverage. Now, the TV industry and TV viewers are mourning the woman seen as one of the faces of the BBC. Katie Derham, ITN.
And for the very latest from Fulham, I'm joined now by Nicholas Owen. Nick, what's happening there tonight?
Well, the road where Jill Dando lived, Gowan Avenue, it remains closed. Police forensic teams are still working away, and it's said they will be right the way through to the morning. The only people allowed in and out of here at the moment, apart from the police themselves, are local residents, and they are all like the rest of the nation. It seems very, very shocked indeed. And there's the great feeling here that everybody's lost someone they sort of knew, whether they lived around here or not. One thing that did emerge this evening, Jill Dando was actually in the course of selling the house just down there.
And Nick, is there any more information tonight about a possible motive?
Well, thoughts are turning away from the idea of it being a stalker, which everybody was talking about earlier on, to this whole business of perhaps it was something even more sinister. The manner of her death, a single gunshot wound, we think, to the back of the head, and then the way that the man who killed her, apparently who did the deed, left the scene, strolling and then breaking into a jog, glancing back at one stage. But this is somebody who seemed to plan pretty carefully what they were going to do, plan pretty carefully their exit. They weren't relying on a vehicle, they were able to slip away. The police are refusing to speculate, of course, but it does look as though it might just possibly be something that's known in the trade as a professional killing.
Nick, thanks a lot. An apparent split in the Yugoslav leadership widened tonight when a Deputy Prime Minister, Vuk Drašković, threatened street protests over what he